Behind the southern charm lies razor-blade smiles and hearts of darkness.
Monsters we are.
You know the rest of that sentiment and the reasoning behind it.
The truest lie ever sung.
It is not in seeking monstrousness that we stave off the monsters of our hearts and thoughts.
We are monsters dead, and truly so.
Yet our monstrousness is solely in seeking to live.
Seeking to be that most human of animals.
Monsters we are.
Monsters we are.
The better to embrace the truth of our dead humanity.
The Coast After Dark is a mature-themed Discord play by Post Server based in and exploring the V5 world of darkness in and around the Mississippi Gulf Coast region.
It has a small local population with over 14 million tourists that visit annually.
Roughly an hour's time is all that is needed to travel from end to end.
The geography and size of the region has created a unique power structure that is formally known as the Council of Twilight.
It is sometimes called the Pentarchy.
Sometimes affectionate.
Sometimes oozing with disdain.
Come explore and safely experience the darker parts of the sun-kissed landscape
And your imaginations.
Welcome everyone. This is your host, your storyteller, your number one fan, Nobody, and this is the Coast After Dark. Well, that stopped them.
Hello.
Greetings and salutations. How we doing?
I am doing all right. I now know what's wrong with me health-wise.
You're American?
Besides that, this is not something that is promoted by Americanism.
So what might that be?
Hyperthyroidism.
Oh, okay. A more treatable variety of hyperthyroidism, or something where the only thing is to make yourself comfortable for the long, slow ride?
The suggestion is surgery.
Sorry to hear that.
It's not a super invasive surgery or anything, but it's still operating around the neck.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the thyroid's on the neck, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
Indubitably. So, what's the prognosis if that is not something that you would like to do?
If I don't want to do it, I can look forward to a plethora of kidney stones and high blood pressure in my future. And more bone spurs.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, well, long as there are options, you want to keep your options open. All right, so as we kind of cycle up and get going, as always, it is a pleasure to play. It is a pleasure to partake in this hobby of ours. We will be doing something that we do in text quite often, which is pick up where we are and see where we land. In this particular case, with Chaval and Gregory being the centerpieces of our temporary coterie, with them being in disparate and different locations, before we get fully going, would you each be so kind as to denote in your most recent threads exiting to live play, so that we could keep track of it if things get forgotten along the way?
Okay, so I should just presume that my information gets transferred and...
Well, it is always wrong to presume, but you may if you wish.
I mean, otherwise it's completely nonsensical.
To whom?
Anyway, I'm putting in the comment exits to live play. Just it's presumably Claudine's not pulled out, is not going to be like completely miffed by this, I guess.
Well, it's more for continuing the scene if you're going to hop back into it afterwards. You know what happens in between where Chaval is in thread and in post, and where Gregory is in thread and in post, leading and merging into the live play, and then back into the actual by post play. So it's mechanical maintenance and notation. It's not a full-on interrupt a scene. It's not a...
I'm probably going to finish it and tick it anyway.
Well, you know, sunrise is tomorrow.
Yeah, it's soon.
Yeah,
it's quite soon, yes.
It is effectively the last hour, last 45 minutes, that last hour and a half until sunrise. Well, safe sunrise. Because it's always assumed that unless directly in action in the middle of something, that each character can safely make it to their haven or a haven to die for the day.
Yep.
Gregory, you're a little silent. Are you cognizant?
I am cognizant. I was just Googling where a Walmart in Biloxi is, just so I can, a Walmart on the coast would be. And I am now spoiled for choice.
Yes, Walmart is one of many places to shop along the coast. So, if anyone else is to join us, we'll give them a few more minutes to our soft start while we have the maintenance and notation jotted down. Before we get up to full speed, are there any questions, suggestions, hypotheses, corners we need to round off, or simply flights of fancy we need to book?
I was before I saw the event posted, I was planning on writing a scene for him feeding.
Well, he has been exposed to several opportunities in places where feeding is a little easier than usual. As well as there may be the very real need to visit upon the world his revenge of his self-loathing. He may seek to unburden himself from all of that bio-like emotion that wells up with his last post. And if he just needs to destroy something beautiful. But that is entirely up to him.
I like the direction you're going with that. I feel like the reason why, or at least a part of like the mechanical reason why it's weighing down on him a lot more than usual is his willpower is capped at 2 at the minute.
He took aggravated willpower. I don't remember him doing so.
Oh, so Zamitzi, he's been away from his haven.
Yes.
About 4 times.
Okay. And he hasn't
Wait
had
a minute. If it's been 4 times, then okay, I have more I have more willpower than I thought I did.
Nice.
I'm capped at 4 instead of 2.
Okay. And he hasn't had time to do any maintenance of self to make sure that he recharges his stores.
Well, he's been I don't want to say it's self-obsessive, but he's been kind of communing with his signs of accomplishment, his trophies, the things that kind of they may not be important to his humanity, but they are reminders of his past and why he ended up being embraced.
Yes, and it's always one of the more endemically problematic and unproblematic aspects of the Samich specifically, because you have to find a why. Hello there, Ernie. How are you?
Yeah.
Definitely get a coughing fit right as I was about to unmute.
Aha. Well, you know, we all need a little time, and all need a little.
His Magister approaches. Okay.
Two
So
people that play with blood and one person that plays with flesh. Cool.
excuse me. Thanks for
I play with flesh all the time, but
Hey, now keep it clean, keep it PG.
I don't play Doctor. I am Doctor, but okay, whatevs.
All right. So
Gregory is also stressing the fuck out about not following up with the sheriff, as well as not getting in contact with the Scourge.
oh no, they are on their way. Don't worry.
I just have a quick question for something else that's already going on, because I know we have until, what is it, tomorrow to wrap it, probably. Where did we move the play for the ongoing scene? Like, what was the room that's near the chop shop?
I'm not entirely sure where Ernie, Sasha, and Creighton were. Ernie was the driver, so it is unfortunately on his shoulders where they actually go, what plans they followed through on. Because this is in continuity, you will need to pause Ernie's interactions in the scene and find a reason for him to not be there until after the live play, because this is in continuity. So
He jumps out of the moving vehicle.
very, very close. What I had been considering, because I know that Ernie had been in a scene that involved other players. What I'd suggest for Ernie in Ernie's scene is to write pause due to live play. It frees Ernie to be in continuity in play, and then when it's over to re-enter play. Not quite as if nothing happened, but with all due understanding that, yeah, things happen. And, well, it's a reason why speeding in Mississippi is treated like a national capital offense.
Or, yeah. We could switch Ernie for tonight. Ernie could stay in his scene. And I could be somebody else entirely.
Give me... We have 10 minutes to hard start. Give me 25 of ticks of a lamb's tail and so forth and so on.
Aha, see, he has been intrigued.
A bit. I'm trying to search something really quickly because
I see someone keep popping in and out of the OOC lobby.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember who it was? Was there a username?
There was. So, because I didn't get a good look at the username, I'm trying to scroll through the players, see if I can match the profile pic. Sasha Drake.
Oh, yes, Sasha. We like Sasha. Someone should DM and see if they would like to join. Alright, we have roughly 4 minutes until hard start, with no significant questions in regards to play while we suss out Ernie's avatar in the moment. I'm going to take a quick sidestep and have a quick aside, and then we'll be back in less than 3 shakes, and we will dive in both feet. Starting with Claudine and Chaval as their conversation waxes, wanes, grows, swells, and swirls. The introduction of the Lasombra pre-generated character from Grand Bay that will be Ernie's avatar, and connecting the dots with Gregory in the offing so that we can move directly into the fabulously overwhelming moment for this temporary coterie. So 3 quick shakes. I'll be right back.
Well, this ought to make things exciting. I have no idea who you're going to be to have fun. But considering that Chaval has never met your character before, it's almost appropriate.
Alright, folks, how we doing? Everybody ready to run? Everybody ready to rock? Or jazz? Or country? Western?
Ready to swing.
Yes, indeed. So, in preamble of where we are, everyone understands that there's a cost of doing business, and most business persons assume that it is never personal for anyone else save for themselves. Business persons of all stripe and variety typically have an overindulgence of hypertension and stress-related maladies that overwhelm them while attempting to hide from the realities of their actions. The realities of trading in business, or shorting a stock, or offensively and patently deceitfully taking over someone else's livelihood, or minimizing a person to maximize their profits. It is a ludicrously, purposefully false ideology that business is never personal. Business is as personal as you can possibly be, because no one enters business of any stripe and any variety because of anything save need. And it is those who exploit those needs for their personal wants that are some of the most vile, dastardly, and duplicitous individuals in the world. But the saying very much is true, that one must handle business, let business handle you. And with that hanging over our heads, with that ideology sitting there plainly, truthfully, and factually glowing before us like the hand of God writing on Nebuchadnezzar's wall, we swoop through the night sky, a cool, clear, moist Mississippi evening, circling through homes where families have gathered and settled in to watch their individual screens, either together or separately, hiding in bedrooms, lounging around dining room tables, otherwise engaging in the attempt or the idea of rest, whether they fall to sleep working at finishing homework for some online course, or looking up a recipe and sussing through tales of grandmothers long forgotten, or whether they're simply staring at the ceiling, questioning why they have not dozed off. We find one Dr. Chaval Dahan strolling along in the company of a lithe, petite, Asian woman of Vietnamese descent. Her headscarf and fancy Caribbean-styled hat beneath her hood, obfuscating everything except for the very faintest illusion of her eyebrows, covering her forehead, keeping her surprisingly warm, even as both Chaval and herself have long died. They are no longer in possession of the quick that animates all of those sleeping, unsleeping, unrestful adults, persons of every age across the coast. And Claudine, with the previously stated, but as to your question, yes, I wouldn't have gone to the facility for any other reason, and the visit was extremely costly. Response replies with, costly how? The exchange of information has only the cost that we ascribe to it, and I assure you, without any illusion as to my capabilities, that at the very minimum, I'll share what you provided here with everyone willing to listen. I'll make sure that every ear that has the ability to understand the English that is coming out of my mouth has the opportunity to access that information. Seekers don't do anything but wind up making the living dead and the dead deader. It's a shame the system works the way that it does.
Well then, to be blunt, the dragon tried to sell me as dinner. And I am only out because I owe various boons.
So you fell into the clutches of another kindred, and they were going to use you as a donor?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know that pain. It is not a very warm place to be in, viewed as prey, when you are at your heart predator. To have your agency and your will taken from you. Perhaps we should see my friend the Duchess. She has a childer not far from here that we can visit, and you can at least find solace in others of us who've been victimized by our community. Because that is what it is at every step. We victimize each other as a way of verifying and finding out how truly monstrous and predatory we are. It's the reason why I don't ride in closed vehicles with other kindred, unless of course I have assurances. It's the reason why and she points towards the walk that you've all made. Unlike most of your time with Habibi, unlike most of your time with the Sufi, unlike most of your time even engaging with Arkansas, or Arkansas as she likes to pronounce her name, you've all only crossed and traveled in well-lit, highly populated areas. Unlike traveling with Habibi, where you're alone in the car, you and her, or you're alone in a dark place where no one knows where you are, or you're alone in your place where no one knows she is. Unlike with the Sufi, where you traveled in the circle of his bodyguards and retainers. Unlike Arkansas, where you are alone in the dark with another predator. Claudine is kept to the well-lit, well-traveled, easily viewable areas with multiple paths of escape and egress from one another.
Well, she's the one who knows where she's going. I am just going to... I'm just taking some mental notes that, like, she takes this attitude towards openness to a very logical extreme, because Chaval likes to think of things in logical networks. And it's like, if one believes in openness, then light and transparency are to be expected, and even though it's nighttime, she is clearly trying to embody that in word and deed, and I am merely appreciating that and trying to take mental notes of where we are going so that I won't be lost trying to get my way back to the car.
Easier done than said. What is Chaval's intelligence plus survival?
Great question. 5.
To say that she incidentally and accidentally memorized the steps thus far would be laughably simple. Not only did she memorize the steps and paths thus far, she can tell roughly within a quarter of a mile exactly where on the coast she is. She has found a way without even meaning to be able to track back to where she began, at the very hidden, very secretive, very out of the way mosque that tends to the faith of many who don't have the opportunity of showing up to other more public, respectful and respected places of worship. It's amazing in consideration of that, as she realizes, I'm not far from that nightclub that Vanessa took me to. I'm not far from what is believed and wholeheartedly accepted as I'm smack dab in the middle of Anarch territory. Mississippi City is about a tenth of a mile from where you presently are. Traveling down Railroad Street, you know that when you all made that right onto Texas, that 16th Street is just up ahead. Yeah, we're on 16th, and that's interesting how close things are and how everything blends and melds together.
Yeah, we're not far from the religious establishment either.
No, you're not. And the worst thing, and this is the thing that is only dawning on you now, as you are approaching 16th Street, you realize that Arkansas Avenue, right there at Sunridge Park, where you know there is an active cult seeking to undermine the local government, where you were one of the things that went bump in the night, though your bump was your firing pin against the bullets in your chamber. Sunridge Park is literally right over there. How would she know anybody over here? Is she leading you to the cult or the cultist? Is this a trap?
Just curiosity. Which way are we going? I'm trying to not panic, but I will mysteriously divert myself if it looks like we're going to head straight towards where
Where do you know someone who lives in this area? It's right down here. The Duchess's child lives here at the end of 16th Street.
Okay.
Do you know someone who lives in the area? Do you know the donkey?
The donkey. I don't think I've heard that. Okay, so Gregory, you can correct me, but I don't believe you were referred to as a donkey in my presence. Is that correct?
I was not referred to as the donkey in your presence.
Okay, so my answer for now is
However, if you've been on the coast long enough, you've definitely heard of the sports fighter. One of the very few people that still knows how to swing a sword these days.
Given that I have very minimal streetwise, I'm going to presume that I don't know that moniker. Okay, so, be like, I don't think I do? No, just I had a bad moment around here. That's all. But we're fine. We're fine. Let's keep going.
Completely understandable. Mississippi City is known for a slew of happenstance. If I'm not mistaken, the MMA fighter, the Scourge, was found missing. Her family's not too far from here. That whole massacre that happened. It's a shame, actually. She recently, gotten the championship for bare knuckle fighting, and then the next thing you know, she kills her family, husband, children, leaves a bloody mess, and disappears. It's a shame that how monstrous we can be, and not we as we are now, but all of these. And she motions to the houses north and south of where you are, east and west of Texas there, like all of these houses filled with all of this life. It's one of those funny situations, and not funny haha, but funny sad, that as bad and reprehensibly predatory as we dead things can be, that they can be so much worse if allowed to be. If not held accountable, if not afraid of what will happen after they do such a thing, more people would be monsters. And they live close enough and exist close enough right on top of each other to do horrible, heinous things to each other. And while it's not everyone, enough of them are. Enough of them will do unspeakable things to each other.
This is a lesson I learned a long time ago in Gaza.
I didn't learn that lesson until I died. I wish I had learned it sooner. Perhaps there's a chance that things would have been different for me. But I came into this world of ours, this never-ending night, completely unaware. And to think I fell for that chestnut of doing good endlessly. If I had known then what I know now, I would have so very willingly and ardently said no. We don't deserve to be saved. And by we, I mean the living. because that's how I still see myself more times than not. Even with everything that I've been through, it is very hard for me to accept that I am actually, that you are actually, that we are actually. Oh, here's the house right here. And as she says, here's the house right here, you look towards, would you be so kind as to describe the front street side view of the trophy case?
It feels a little out of place. A very quaint building sandwiched between two larger, more modern constructions. It only has 2 floors. There seems to be a bit of a raised foundation. You see the windows for a basement. And in the driveway, there is a van with the engine running. You see the exhaust billowing. And there's the silhouette of a man sitting in the van.
And pausing on that moment as eyes connect, as they both, Claudine and Chaval, through their experiences of life and unlife, warily take in their surroundings. Chaval realizing that just over the next hedgerow, just past that fence, there's the building complex, a series of homes, one next to the other, built atop one another, connected to each other through a semblance of a foundation, because Mississippi mud makes it very costly and prohibitive to have things such as an actual foundation or an actual basement. It is a sign of near extreme wealth to have such amenities that are taken for granted most other places in the world. But the mud, the good old-fashioned red Mississippi mud, when compacted, can very much equal the same effect as all of the concrete in the world, even without the aggregate mixed in, even without the bracings of iron helping it hold itself together. The mud swallows and is a virtual non-Newtonian fluid when it wants to be. And in reference to that same Mississippi mud, the fact that things change, there are still mud slides. There are still areas that get washed out if it gets too rainy. There are areas where if you were to walk into them, it would remind you of those old black and white movies where the intrepid explorer is sinking beneath the quicksand and has to, and yet still, there are also areas where it is equal to the most sturdy and staunchest armor plating. Mississippi is a land of extremes. There are portions of the population that make enough to equal any of the high-rolling presidents, CEOs, or CFOs of Fortune 10 companies, and yet in the same breath there are portions of the population who don't fathom, can't understand what new anything is. There are still children in Mississippi who are equal in status and wealth as those of the poorest third world country, being exploited by the state, the city, the county, their neighbors. There are places in Mississippi where hunger is the only thing that lasts throughout the entirety of a person's life. There are places in Mississippi and the contiguous continental United States in general, where veritable actual deserts of sustainable food is all that any of the population knows. There are places, and there are people and beings who are absolutely ravenous, people who only know the empty growlings of a stomach and a being thirsty and hungry for every experience that they can possibly find, because the only thing they've had is suffering. And until recently, Genevieve was just that person, being eaten upon by things internal and external. Until recently, their only state was the unending, ravenous hunger. All of the foibles and stumbles and trip falls and pitfalls of attempting to exist in the world of the kindred was all washed away with hunger. And then 5 days ago, they resurrected for the day, not being feasted on, not being eaten from within. A light so bright that it scars the retinas, the feeling of warmth, and the rattle chains. And then that voice, that raspy, husky voice that spent 46 years smoking before death was granted to them. That voice that took her law firm from her. That voice that set obstacle after obstacle in her path to lay her low. That voice that promised forever because she'd earned it. Whispers, how was your nap?
She kind of gives him a side eye, not wanting to be too sassy off the cuff, because she realizes the situation she has found herself in. But looking at her creator. Better than being underwater, I suppose.
What do you suppose? That the being submerged, being fed upon is better than where you are now. You are unsure if this gift that I've given you is worthy of your time. What exactly are you unsure of?
Survive. I feel like I shouldn't have survived what I did. Here I am. That is where I am, I'm sure.
You didn't survive. You committed the greatest sin possible. You failed. But luckily for you, I am a kind sire. I am a kind monster. When it came to our notice that the corpse to be used for processing was in fact yours, a small investment was paid forward instead of allowing you to be properly baked, roasted, immolated, so that Mortius's band of waste might use you as chemical components.
Really white, because she is realizing what was she said. And that scares her to no end that she narrowly escaped whatever it was that they had planned for her. So she kind of lowers her eyes and I'm sorry. I didn't realize how difficult it would be in Gary and how difficult. I know it doesn't make any difference what I say right now. I will say no further. Sorry.
Oh, but it does. Your understanding of where you were matters so very much. There's a task that you might be suited for. You might earn your place back here amongst us. You have been satiated, you've been fed enough to be ambulatory, but the prince believes that instead of wasting resources and taking the ashes of the interloper rescued from the federal government back to those heathens across the border, that you could earn your place back here at Grand Bay by making the delivery. Starting over, as it were, paying your way with the efforts of your energies. Or it is not, in fact. And not for the first time, you notice that unlike most modern canes, most walking sticks, his, while rounded, is not flush. It's not perfectly flat against the surface. It's a rounded bit of wood. Not sharp, not stabbing or poking like a blade or a dagger, but that rounded tip, that perfectly round, smooth taper, would work surprisingly well with enough force. And even if it missed its mark, even if he was a fraction of an inch off, it would easily crush the bones of the chest. It would easily rip and burst apart the heart beneath. It would easily, with enough force, with enough strength, work in paralyzing any kindred that was foolish enough to be within, oh, wait, you are within 3 feet of him. You are chained and shackled. You are a lamb to whatever might happen next.
She watches him closely, knowing she has to be very, very careful of anything that might come out of her mouth. It is not a good place to be her usual self. And she hasn't been her usual self in a long time anyway. So she just kind of tucks her arms into the cardigan that is probably 2 sizes too large and curls in on herself and just nods. I will do as asked this evening.
Excellent. You, as per your usual previous untarnished self, have chosen wisely. I'll fetch the maps, and Smythe will free you so that you might better point yourself and divest yourself of those garments, finding something better suited. Smythe! And he turns and begins to move back away from you as Smythe's hulking, lurking form melds up out of the shadows. There's a natural understanding that there are rooms that have certain sounds, and those sounds are based on the people that exist and operate in those rooms. It becomes part and parcel of who and what they are. Living people breathe, they have blood circulating, there's the sound of their stomach gurgling, their lungs inhaling. There are noises that humans bring with them everywhere they go. Smythe is not dead, and yet, because of his years of service and because of his proximity to the darkness that is in your core, having welled up from your fount, that is your sire, he has this dark, somber quietude to him that makes those sounds almost non-existent. And even as his large form moves closer with no semblance of stealth, there's nary a sound of footfall. There's no swish of cloth. There's no inhalations of effort. There's just his presence suddenly, quietly there. No jangling of keys or any such noises about him. Not even the constant electric hum of cell phones or electronic devices on his person. Absolutely quiet. It's one of the most unnerving things that you had to grow accustomed to during your peerage. Because in the domain and haven of your sires, there is no sound. Windows open. And even the wide, wild noises of a Independence Day celebration are nothing more than flashes of light just outside the circle. Even the bombarding klaxon of sirens passing by are nothing more than flashing lights moving through the night. In your sire's haven and in your sire's domain, silence is the only law of the land. And there's no better representation of that than Smythe, who snaps the chains and manacles that are bound to you. Smythe gently and quietly nods and offers his huge hand that would envelop not only your hand but most of your wrist and forearm to help you up enough of your seating. Smythe gently and quietly escorts you to the fitting room where your many older ensembles, still kept pressed and ready to wear, are hung. There are no mirrors in your sire's haven, only Smythe. And in that semblance of silence, and in that spirit of being alone, the last few days for you, Gregory, have been a dark, scathing, and scouring of the soul. Because there is one being, one entity that is simply undefeatable. It's impossible. Try though you might to get around them. Try though you might to dodge their attacks. Try though you might to protect yourself from their onslaught. They refuse to be affected by all of your efforts. They refuse to be deterred from harassing and haranguing you. They refuse everything except for ensuring that you experience the most succinct and painful of truths. There's the aphorism that it's hard to meet your gaze, to meet your own eyes when you feel ashamed. It's hard to look yourself in the eye. It's worse for kindred, because your worst intrusive thoughts are so powerful that they can subsume your conscious thoughts and operate you as if you are a puppet. to their will. You've heard Kendrick call those intrusive thoughts the beast. You've heard them call it the blood of their founders, the fountainheads of each and every one of the clans. You have now had the opportunity of experiencing it for over a week now, since your death, your second death, when you drank down your maker at the behest of Evergreen and God, and here you are dealing with the full weight of your intrusive thoughts, dealing with the full weight of your beast as it excoriates everything you are, from the fights you threw to drive up the next fight's purse to what your trophies actually mean, each of them typically being the loss of something else's life, whether it is their actual life or the metaphysical sense of self. Each of those trophies, each of those moments of death that you need. So you sit in your van, the engine idling, the thoughts bombarding and bouncing off the inside of your skull, causing your unbeating heart to flutter and twitch and attempt to shirk away from some of those blows coming from you. And as the lights of the van remain raining out onto the sidewalk and into the street unbroken, there's a petite Asian woman and Dr. Chaval. Would you be so kind as to describe yourself as you and Claudine enter into view?
I'm actually, Gregory would be familiar with the way I look, because this is exactly the way I looked the last time he saw me. In terms of my attire, the black lab coat, the conservative hairdress, the black jeans, the sneakers. Yeah, he'd have to be an extremely astute observer to notice that I was carrying slightly different inventory inside my jacket. Like inside the lab coat are the photos that I had just shown Claudine. So that's like a little bit different than my standard kit, as it were. But other than that, I look exactly the same as the last time he saw me. I don't see him yet, right? I don't recognize him yet. Like it's not a good angle for that.
No, he's inside the van.
Yeah. So, and we're approaching from behind, right?
You're approaching from the sidewalk, so you're approaching from the front of the house. Yes.
I am turning the ignition to turn off the car. The headlights die out, and the engine goes quiet. You see the car door open, and while he's not facing you, his stature is familiar.
Mm-hmm. I turn to Claudine. I go, "You call him Donkey?"
Well, that was his fighting name. I can't say that I've actually watched an entirety of one of his bouts, but the Duchess said that some of the things that we should be looking forward to and passing this curse along are people whose lives we can better, or whose lives we can utilize for something better. And his was such a life. Him and several of her children were fighters, or martial artists, or failed writers, and she took them and her childer her child, created these children, giving them the gift and the promise of immortality for a betterment. Her network is responsible for some of the most ethically sourced blood that is circulating through the circulatory system. Many of her children are professional donors so that other kindred don't feel the bite of their beast that certain members of our community can feed without having to kill. They can feed without having to hunt, without having to put other lives at risk. She does great work.
I'm like furiously taking mental notes because the circulatory system is quite fascinating to me for a variety of reasons. I'm like, okay, Duchess is in charge of various aspects of ethically sourced kindred meals. Okay, somehow Gregory is called Donkey and he's associated. Like she's not saying anything because she's clearly like focusing on trying to store things upstairs.
Oh, look! Donkey over here. Hi. Hello.
Ah, shit. He stands up straight and waves, and Chaval, you do see that this is someone that has fed on you.
We've met.
I didn't know the clinic does meals to the door. What is this? DoorDash? Meals on Wheels? I didn't bring my bib.
Don't you dare.
And as she says that, as she pauses, her mind cycling up to speed, there is an clearly unconscious movement on her part. She crosses her body, hanging onto her satchel with her right hand, her left meeting it as if she's holding a full-on arming sword at Midgar and taking an incidental step further away from both you and the now closely distant Gregory. There is a muscle memory reaction to as she puts one and one together to find out that there's three things that are now visible. The joking demarcation of feeding and DoorDash and Chaval's "don't you dare" ominous intended promise of violence puts her in 100% state of fight and flight, or better yet, fight to flight.
I jest, of course.
I stopped reaching for my scalpels, but I am not letting down my guard per se.
We're here for your sire so that we can, my friend, my associate, Chaval here could potentially... Am I interrupting something between you two?
No.
God, I hope not.
There's no such thing.
Like a month.
Mm-hmm.
When it's sore, you need to stretch it a little bit.
There's no such thing as coincidence. There's a rhyme and reason to the world around you. And everything, as unconnected as one thing might seem, are all part of the full biosphere that we inhabit, both living, dead, and all states in between. Energy is exchanged. It moves from one form to the next, unendingly forever. Donkey, the donkey, Mr. Donkey, if you're being respectful, Gregory, having fed from the quick of Chaval's very slow, dead flesh, there is a heat and warmth of memory. You remember what she tastes like, the power that is potentially there, and how it settled a hunger you didn't realize you had. You knew and know what blood does. You fed on and been fed on and understand the power of the kiss. But in that moment of dining on Chaval with the bullfrog, there was a connection. And it still is, in fact, there. It was only a few nights ago, it was only 4 nights ago, where your fangs were lip deep in all that Chaval might ever have become.
Ladies, let's get off the street. I mean, if you know anything, it would be difficult for me to bring myself to harming you at this moment.
Well, that is a good thing, I suppose, but the fact that you've thought about it is not as, it's not as comfortable as it should be. But if you promise to take Chaval to your sire or the Duchess, I'll consider you a friend, an associate, more than just a way to obtain access to the Duchess. And I won't tell anyone else what I know or don't know about this particular situation.
I hate to disappoint, but you might be a bit out of the loop if you're expecting to find Noria.
Well, she is known to go out of contact every couple of weeks. Just let her know that Claudine says hello when she gets back, and have her give me a call. I miss our conversations.
I'll be sure she knows.
Very good. Well, Chaval, this is the donkey. He's Noria's child and childer of the Duchess. And the Duchess is even kinder than my friend Noria. The Duchess, like I said, is a linchpin in regards to the system. And her thin blood here will be able to get you where you need to go.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
My pleasure. Don't harm her, please, Mr. Donkey.
The moment I consider her a guest, honor ties my hands. She is safe.
I will hold you to that. I'll leave you now. Why do you stay in such a place? And she points towards your home. near the roof.
Bit of a fixer-upper, but
So,
it's where they put me.
so you glance towards your home, glance towards the treasure case, the trophy case. You take in the quiet, almost suburban, haunted aspect of your building, of your haven, your home, all that you are. And Chaval, do you?
Chaval's not much of a connoisseur of architecture. I mean, she kind of does a more like functional appraisal, potential entrances and exits. Like if she had to get away, what would be the best options? More of a tactical appraisal, I guess, would be the right way to describe it.
Understandable. It is a very safe tactic. One should always know how to leave wherever one is potentially going. And in taking in the building, taking in the home, the raised, clearly reinforced basement, a rarity. It is a seldom seen thing. Crawl spaces and coal chutes aside, basements are not common. Things that are submerged into the Mississippi mud typically remain there and are destroyed by its weight and its slide, the shifting that happens, or worse yet, flooded during the rainy seasons. And in consideration of the clear entrances and exits, and those that may be hidden by utilizing breaking windows or slamming open doors, you look towards Claudine to nothing. There's nothing, no one there. The space where she had been, the clearly visible there on the sidewalk with you, compatriot space, the accompaniment is gone. It's as if it has always been empty, and she is nothing more than a figment of your imagination. As you focus on where she was, it takes a little bit to even remember the details of her ensemble. It's eerie.
At the same time, although, you know, it's a tiny bit unsettling, I know I can pull the same trick. So I'm not.
Yes, but being victimized by it is another matter entirely. That is disturbing. Because not only was there no sound that you had gotten used to, you could, in your head, because you were paying attention to how you got here, remember the sounds of her footfall. Remember the sound that her bag was making as it bumped against her hip, that she moved. She didn't move like a dancer or like an athlete or like someone who had been trained to cross a battlefield. She moved like someone who was simply walking, not trying to impress, not trying to deceive, not trying to do anything untoward or deceitful, not trying to allure nor repulse, simply travel. And while those sounds were present every step along the way, the sudden absence of them and this person that they belong to, it inwardly feels like you were incidentally slapped. Now you know what victims of your silence feel when you go from making noises and being similarly or giving off the semblance of being alive, and then suddenly not. Silent as the promise of the grave. Now you get an opportunity to feel what those who listen to you move through your haven as you've tended to one patient or another, and you've had to purposefully or accidentally go completely silent. You know what they feel, why they're always a little unnerved, and why you typically try not to. Typically you try to remember yourself and not to always be as silent as a cat. And yet when you forget, or when you're busy, or when you're in the rush, it falls over you far easily. It's easy to be silent. It's better for you. Then you can hear the chest sounds. You can hear the nasal passages working. You can hear and smell and see and take in all of the minute details of a person's being to discern portions of their health. And in that silence that helps you see them, hear them, understand them clearer, you realize why they are so unnerved.
And yet, at the same time, I also have a little bit of a wry smile on my face, because it's like, one, I realize that the gotcha's on me this time, but also I'm simultaneously realizing that apparently even Claudine has limits to her dedication to openness and transparency.
Indeed. And speaking of transparency, clarity of thought, and honesty, it would not be incorrect to say that Gigi's peerage, her training into this state of existing, was a labor. It would not be dishonest to say that escaping the peerage, earning her status as a fully free and accountable member of the keepers of the magisters, was a victory. It was surmounting that mountain. It is reaching the highest apex that she had ever managed to attain. That act of being counted as fully functioning and a member, and yet during her peerage, Smythe's bulk, the instinctual menace of being so close to something so large and something so silent, his was a horror at first. The understanding that the strength that he possesses was not the same strength as another being of his size. It was considerably more. And knowing that the undead strength coursing through your being was the rival of that and more, still did not detract from the sheer monstrosity of his size. And it's not the cartoon comic book overinflated chests and deltoids and biceps. He is simply all over large, with the same proportions as one of the forge smiths of the gods, one of those of Nidavellir who created the weapons of the Acer and the Veneer. His proportions are wholly wrong, yet massive. And as he gives you a moment of time to suss through your former clothing, finery by any stretch of the imagination, there is that feeling of hollow comfort. You know that you are safe so long as, and it's a so long as that makes it hollow, because safety should not come at a cost. Existence should not come at a cost that threatens its very being. And yet here you are, rescued from the murky depths, the cold grave.
She's kind of like smirking to herself. She still doesn't know exactly what she's looked like since they rescued her. All those months underwater definitely did a bit of a job on her, but she's kind of touched her face and stuff and checked where things are, and she's finding like new lines and sallowness that probably wasn't there before. Trying to make herself look more like her original self. She's put on some blush and some eyeshadow and a darker lipstick and trying to zhuzh herself up. It's almost like a kid playing dress up. Like, I'm putting on this mask, I'm putting on this persona that is not my own anymore, but fits, sort of. And it's strange for her, because she realizes, she feels him behind her, but she doesn't want to give in to the fact that it disturbs her as much as it does. So, as she's going through the clothing, trying to pick out something that's put together but comfortable, I see the old man ain't changed much. Still threatening, still dangerous, still full of himself. But it is what it is, and I am who I am, and I will be who I am expected to be, as it were. And then putting on, she doesn't even care about like changing clothes in front of him anymore, because like I said, it's kind of like that weird presence that's always there, so you don't get freaked out by it. Pair of black slacks, a nice white button up, or like red would be better, because she knows how things go. You can't trust that clean clothes are gonna stay clean. So red top, black pants, black suit jacket, very much her loyally look, and hair twisted up into a tight updo, and then turning to look at him. So, what do we think? I'm not really expecting an answer, but she asks him anyway.
No sound. Not even the clicking blink of his eyes as he takes you in. But then he moves, stepping forward, reaching past you, his arm from the top of his bicep to the bottom of his tricep being almost the exact circumference of your head. And he picks up your palette of makeup, the small brush, even smaller in his huge, massive hands, and he leans in from the waist and lightly applies and smooths and blends the blush on your cheeks and adjusts your eyeshadow so that it highlights your eyes without drawing attention to the few small imperceptible stress wrinkles that come from resurrecting not once but twice in a lifetime. He adjusts the small flip and curl of your hair, smoothing the lapels and making sure that there's not so much as one mote of dust on your shoulders, and silently nods, placing the makeup back down, placing the brush back where it was, and turns on his heels to lead you up.
There is that small bit of internal screaming going on inside her head, but outwardly she is calm and placid and adjusting her watch. Very much a timepiece that has seen many a year. Still analog. She doesn't use digital watches for a very good reason.
Prince Melina is one of the blood. She is blatantly and openly a magister, though most erroneously consider her one of the blue bloods. Most consider her one of the accepted members of the Camarilla from years and centuries gone by. She's never been ashamed of her lineage. She's never been ashamed of her blood. But it has not proven worth the fight to dispel certain people's biases and prejudices when it comes to and explaining that your bloodline, that your clan is merely a connection of the blood and not prescriptive or descriptive of who and what a being might be. Proud of who and what she is, yet ashamed that the preconceived notions, even amongst the dead, are the byword. Her pragmatic businessship and ability to lead solely being the purview of the blue blood. How can a people who have the promise of forever be so intractably idiotic? She's had to, by dint of necessity, plant more kindred than she has ever been comfortable with because of their own biases and prejudices. Clan in blood means only what one chooses for it to mean. There's no such thing as a automatically autistic toreador. There's no such thing as a, well, there are wizardly, bookish, academic Tremere, but there's always the exception in having to treat the being based on their actions, not their blood. So the fact that your sire and Princess Melina get along so well has always been curious to you. Your sire is a devout proponent that the Magisters are in fact the keeper of all kindred kind. Camarilla, Sword, Ashera, the Laban, all of them are solely children needing the leadership of the keepers. There's not one amongst them that could be self-governing without their guidance, without the guidance of the keepers, without the stabilizing hand of the Magisters. He is a devout clanist. The Lasombra are all that is good in kindred kind. You've heard that speech and variations on that theme for what feels like centuries on end. And you've also heard the opposite from Prince Melina. The worth of a kindred is in their actions, and it has nothing to do with the bounds of blood. Your blood doesn't prescribe nor dictate anything that your efforts don't earn. And yet here you are, back in Grand Bayou La Batre, with your sire and Prince Melina at your sire's haven, with the finest urn sitting on the table between them as they both sip from their donors as you enter, guided by Smythe. Next to the urn are keys. The table itself is a strangely constructed solid marble thing that you are sure it took artisans several years to perfect. In everything but mannerisms and pride in his blood, your sire is the very definition of what an old Ventru might be. If the rumors and gossips and prejudices and biases were to be held true, your sire would be a blue blood of the most stereotypical variety. yet proudly proclaims his status as a magistrate, proudly holds on to the illusions of his own biases. Rising as Smythe enters after a silent knock, the feeling of the knock reverberates forward into the room, even as no sound travels. And as he opens the door and leads you in to the view, your sire tosses aside their donor, allowing them to drop on the marble floor. Normally, such a thing would cause a whoomph and a smacking of head against the marble. You'd be able to hear it and flinch at the sound of it. But because of the very overwhelming hand of oblivion, there's not so much as a whisper of cloth. Silence, as always. We lose you, Ernie?
Technical difficulties. Sorry. She tries her best not to wince watching it because, again, does not wish to offend, having just gotten her unlife back. She keeps her gaze towards the prince and tries to smile. Good evening, Your Majesty. It's a pleasure to see you again.
The prince looks up from her donor. It was clear that she understood you were coming. She could feel Smythe. Smythe has his own orbit, his own gravitational pull, and yet she continued what she was doing and removed a small kerchief and dabbed the corners of her mouth and gently allowed her donor to fall in slow motion, guided by her hand to the floor. Once her donor was set aside, she took the kerchief, dabbing both hands and making sure there was nothing so much as a splatter out of place before smoothing her dress, placing the kerchief back into her bosom and standing, moving towards you as if she was drawn like a heat-seeking missile in slow motion towards you. Her face brightening as she closes, moving past Smythe as if he did not in fact exist. Her eyes meeting yours. You've never seen a person of Latin descent with such bright, startlingly green emerald eyes before, but Prince Melina has been noted as such. And as she gets closer, you realize that it's not just bright green emerald. Green. It's not that solely. There are flecks of gold around, sprinkled like fairy dust through her eyes. As she draws closer and smiles, taking your hands into her own. It is a pleasure to have you amongst us once more. And it is an honor that you will deliver, and she looks back towards the urn, this to the Baroness. I'm sure you remember Baroness Aleja. Yes?
It's been some time, but I do recall them a bit, yes. The things they are known for.
Excellent. While this does in all due regard belong to Prince Christopher, it suits us that the Baroness delivers it personally. It is late, Yes, but they should be able to provide you with safe haven for your return if you are not able to make it before sunrise. The vehicle has been gassed by Smythe, and there are atlases in the trunk. If you hurry along, you should be able to return here before sunrise. And she takes a step to her left, your right, making way for you to move past her. And while Smythe has always been an eerie threat, his huge size a threat in and of itself, amongst all of this silent foreboding that it has been your foundational years amongst the dead, there is something even more troubling having to willingly take your gaze from a prince-level kindred close enough to put their hands on you. Close enough to put their fangs on you. Close enough to have their way with you the moment that you are 2 steps past. There's a saying, an aphorism that everyone takes to heart, stuck between a rock and a hard place. And in this moment, looking at the urn, it is hard for Gigi to decide which of the two is the rock and which is the hard place. And with that, we are comfortably at 50 past the hour. Let's take a quick 10 and be back here at the start of the hour. All right, folks, players, characters one and all, are we back?
Yes.
I am present. Ernie?
All right, so to catch those of us who have not been here for the first half, here's where we're building towards, just to give you an idea. The temporary coterie of Dr. Chaval, formerly Claudine the Salubri, Gregory the Dragon, and Gigi the Lasombra are on a path of either collision or cooperation for the evening. Their end goal, of course, being telegraphed as it is the delivery of a parcel and information to the least suspected source, being the Baroness herself. And we've just taken a quick aside, a quick break, a quick vent of all of the potential pent-up responses to the threats bandied about as if they were handshakes. Because in their first meeting since the last dining on one another in one shape, fashion, or form, Chaval and Gregory are standing several feet apart on a sidewalk in what would appear to be a suburban environment just outside of the warm embrace of the streetlights. The cul-de-sac where Gregory lives, dead ending just past their abode, just past the warm, electronically lit homes all about him. His haven standing out as disparate from all of the others. And in this near gloom of suburban Mississippi, the two kindreds stand far enough apart where they could declare that they are safely able to fire if they were engaged in a duel. His van having just idled down thanks to him cutting off the ignition, the night sounds bombarding them in their gap of silence. Because this is a lot. The kiss is magical in how it forces connections, how it ties souls or slivers of souls together, and the pleasure that it gives the kindred and the living. There's also the horror of knowing that someone fed on you, that it stands at complete opposite and antithesis to what the kiss promised. So, as Chaval and Gregory stand alone, just the two of them, on a quiet suburban street, is there anything that they might be discussing?
Pardon me, I was snacking on something. This is not vampire sounds. One second. Yeah. I'm trying to think of how Chaval would word this. Have you heard about the frog?
Gregory frowns and says, I say, you are invited into my haven so we can discuss things.
Lead the way.
Gregory leads Chaval up the porch of the house and opens the door.
There's a portion in every movie where the sounds seem too loud. Being this close to him standing and that door creaking open as if it is the last final warning for your freedom, there is a realization. Claudine may not have been a help in a fight. She was petite and small, clearly unarmed, clearly overly helpful and communicative, and at best would be a casualty in most martial engagements. Yet she was still another presence. You are alone in the middle of nowhere with someone who has had their fangs in your flesh. You are alone in the middle of nowhere with no one knowing where you are and being invited into a private abode. Dr. Chaval, what, if anything, is going through your mind?
Well, the last time I entered a place, there are certain things that like I said I was tactically evaluating a place from the outside. There are certain things that would trigger me to just like go straight for a window and GTFO. Like, if anything resembles the way Basilica basically treated me like a caged pig. And that, you know what? Yeah, that's probably the right way to think about it. Treated me like a caged pig. Like, in her mind, the religious disrespect is deserved. In terms of the way she felt about that whole interaction. Yeah, she's gonna like, if need be, she'd rather like explode the place and burn it all to the ground than be stuck like that again. It simply won't happen. But for now, she's gonna walk into the house, but keeping her guard up the whole time. And she's constantly like casing and recasing the joint, as it were, making sure she knows where all the potential exits are and so forth, even looking for things like potential weapons of opportunity and so forth.
When the door opens, you see straight through to the back door in the kitchen. There's a staircase to your left going upstairs. On the right, what would be a sitting room, a living room. The furniture is all wrong. It is display cases lining the walls, taking up the majority of the floor space. You see swords mounted to the wall. Swords in cases. You see trophies, plaques, ribbons, newspaper clippings. All of this on display.
Well, being able to see through to the back puts me a little bit more at ease, because now it's like, okay, it's very obvious this place is not arranged like Vasilica's establishment. It's not designed to hold people in. It's not a fortress, and it's not a prison. Or at least it's not easily made either, as far as I can tell. So, I mean, I'm still wary, but I'm not as on edge, because I could just bolt out the back door anytime I needed to.
Chaval, welcome to the trophy case. My little gilded cage here on the coast.
Appropriate name?
I'm a bit on arrangements, but I should probably make a call to see if I can get an audience with the Duchess. Protocol, usually I have to go out and find a phone booth, but I don't think you would want to go out for a hunt for something that's dying out.
What would I roll to determine if I would know where the closest phone booth is?
No roll necessary. What is Chaval's memorization? Just raw statistical facts. So intelligence plus technology.
6 dice.
She knows that based on where she is on the coast, sitting here a stone's throw from Mississippi City, in the heart of the Anarch portion of the Pentarchy, that while very few places actually have operational phones, everyone carries their surveillance devices in their pockets these days, that there is a bed and breakfast a little less than a quarter of a mile away over near Centennial Plaza, which is again straight over railroad, down and around and up and in you'd go, because the only other way in is down Beach Boulevard into Centennial Plaza. But there is a payphone and a house phone available at the Grand Centennial, which luckily for you all is a 24 hours establishment.
Okay, I didn't memorize all that. I am simply going to relay all of that information to Gregory on the spot and go, it's close enough, we'll be fine.
I've used that one last month, but it was a month ago, so I like to rotate them. It's been putting up a lot of mileage on my van, but
yeah, security protocols, it's understandable.
All right.
You could potentially head over to the Lucky Inn. Well, Gregory would know that the Lucky Inn is a hair bit closer and far less secure in terms of person, but there you do have a landline you could talk to the desk person to use. You can convince them that you're just down on your luck. You just need 25 cents to get gas for your tire. You need to call someone and bring you don't have your card, or you can just pay them. It is in fact a very seedy hotel. It is very much you can get a nap rate if you know the lingo. So using their house phone, using their phone is a possibility and a potentiality. Of course, doing so places you all in potential physical harm.
Chaval, you have a real good sense of danger around here.
I'm not so sure about that, but it always pays to be wary.
Oh. I guess the safest bet would be the one I used last month. We could load up in my van.
Okay, if you don't mind, I will sit in the back.
Sure, no problem. So this was very much a quick in, and now they're exiting.
Mm-hmm.
There is a connotation that immediately comes to mind when getting close enough to actually take in Gregory's van. Everyone has, even newly arrived to America by way of the Middle East, Chaval has an understanding as to what that sort of van does. And while yes, it's used in most of the trades, it is a panel van, it is a service van, it's a vehicle that's usually stocked in the back with tons and tons of things to do a particular trade: woodworking, carpentry, electricity, so forth and so on. However, the connotation has nothing to do with the trades. The connotation is that it is a kidnap van. Because once you are in that vehicle, there's a good chance that you won't be leaving in the same state that you entered it into. That's exactly the sort of van this is. That's exactly the sort of van that you've seen the Los Angeles and various other kindred across the coast traveling along in.
It's actually a 2000 Ford minivan.
The only thing missing is a sign on the side that says free candy inside.
Don't mind the scuffed back. Oh, okay, it's more than scuffed. I have to admit, a while ago I got into a bit of a wreck, but don't worry, the light's working. We won't get pulled over.
Appreciate the reassurance.
The idea of getting trapped inside and having to fight your way free is a very hard one to shake and swallow. But at least you'll be sitting behind them, so there's less chance that he can do that again. Less.
Oh, frankly, if I suspect he's going to try that, I don't care if he's driving, I'll attack him. So that's not. That's part of the reason I'm concerned. I know I get the jump on him. I get the first strike if I think any funny business is going on.
So, Gregory, are you heading toward the Centennial Plaza, or are you going to go to the No-Tell Motel, better known as the Lucky Inn?
Plaza would be as you said, the safest.
Yes. Physically. But you did use that line not too recently, not too far ago, to contact a kindred. And not just any kindred, a kindred with political aims and goals, and maybe on someone's watch list, maybe someone who has people shadowing them, maybe someone who's a little paranoid about being caught out.
Javal, as long as you give me an extra pair of eyes, we could try the inn. I will head to the inn, the Lucky Inn.
Like most business in and around the coast, it is solely focused on turning a quick buck. It is solely focused on exploiting as much new business as possible. Lucky Inn, for all of its seediness, is relatively close to the water. It's relatively close to the waterfront. Beach Boulevard provides you with easy access to it. It has the only driveway off of Beach Boulevard in the entirety of this little cul-de-sac. The problem being is leaving eastbound over 16th Street, you can either take Texas down to the Beach Boulevard, which means you'll have to cross what is relatively actually an expressway twice, versus if you go the long way to Courthouse Road, there's a sheriff's office there next to the Gulfport Leisure Services, right there at 16th and Courthouse Road. And while your vehicle is operational, it's patched together and held together with, good intentions and better hopes, there's a chance that it would attract attention. There's a chance that it would be noticed, which means you couldn't come back that way, which means you still have to cross the highway twice to get to the Lucky Inn. What is your resolve plus drive or wits plus drive?
Resolve plus drive is 5.
Oh yeah, you've done it several times before. There's no problem. Yeah, so what is 90 is one of the busiest local interstate expressways in the area, and it's just a street, it's just a road. If you're brave enough and bold enough, it won't be an issue at all. Even at this late hour, most of the drivers are impaired, either through being tired from heading to work, or heading home from work, or heading to the bar, or heading home from the bar, or simply just moving through the coast to get to New Orleans. Their impairment has nothing to do with you. You're good. You haven't had a drink yet, which is part of the problem, because you really could use one. You can really use a sip of something hot and vibrant.
I would be salivating right now if that still worked. Gregory turns on an audiobook of The Art of War as he's driving Chaval to the Lucky Inn.
That is perfectly appropriate. Nothing like planning on how to disarm and win the fight before the opponent knows you are doing so. Nothing like the ramblings of a very refined British voice extolling the virtues of deceit and deception, while you have someone sitting behind you who you fed upon. It is, in fact, the opposite of that for Chaval. Hearing how to disarm the enemy before they have the opportunity to strike, to provide them the opportunity of understanding that they have the upper hand, to attack them where they are strongest. And as you make the effort of crossing 90, and the world explodes into a vibrant tapestry of broken glass, screaming metal, and the world going topsy-turvy, all of your good intentions and hopes for the best disappeared.
Oh shit, another car wreck?
You were crossing the expressway, my friend. And as you cross the expressway to make the left into the Lucky Inn, unfortunately, impairment has its bright side, its uptick. It makes it so that you go limp when your vehicle collides, meets, and aggressively hugs the van crossing the expressway at such a late hour of the evening. Chaval, what's your wits?
2.
Oh, you didn't see it happen until it happened. Everything's fine. The smooth, relaxing, very nerve-wracking, refined British voice echoing from his speakers, slightly staticky, extolling the virtues of disarming the enemy and maximizing one's effectiveness in achieving one's goals of conquering. And then there was flashing lights of cars heading in your direction. There was the encroaching brightness growing and growing and growing, and you look past him, keep taking your eyes off of the back of the donkey to see a vehicle which is unrelenting in its oncoming. And you realize that the impact is not only imminent, but happening as you watch in slow motion, aware that he may have purposely driven into this car. Because there's no reason to cross the expressway the way that he did. The expressways are for quick moving traffic to get where they're going, and then he's crossing and smash, crash, bang, the world flipping upside down, round and round, until you all come to a stop at the entrance of the lot. Because it was only one increased level of difficulty. You all flipped and rolled and landed on the tires of the van. And as the van comes rocking to a stop, the windshield shattered into a spider web of just these horribly graphic white lines obstructing the street, the expressway just outside of it. The world sounds far louder than it should. The rich, refined English voice extolling the virtues of Sun Tzu coming in is the only intimate moment that you have with all of the chaos and noise outside of the vehicle. Chaval's paranoid, security conscious mind itself is aware that the last thing you need in light of recent troubles on the coast is to be caught, witnessed, viewed at an accident where neither one of you are as dead as you should be. There should be blood all over the inside of this van. There should be graphic, tragic collision damage all about you all, because the airbags had already been deployed. So even though the front top of the steering wheel popped off, there was no bag there to soften or cushion anything. This vehicle doesn't have side curtain airbags. So you unbuckled, him relatively unbuckled because of his strength and size and the fact that the seatbelt had to be cut free the last crash and impact. You all should be pounded like cube steak. You all should be, well, broken in more ways than could be easily fixed. And yet,
fuck, that guy sped up.
How much superficial did we take?
in this moment, none effectively mechanically right now. You are dead, so there's not a real issue with this collision, this crash.
Okay. All right, forget the car. We gotta move.
And speaking of moving, in the few years since you were last here on the coast, in the area, the roads have changed. The construction on 90 and the construction on 10, swirling through that clover leaf, got you a little turned around. So you find yourself, Gigi, somewhere where you're not sure. There's the breaking waves and the beach there to your left, and you know that you need to go west until you see those flashing lights of bliss, those bright neon signs, and you should have been there by now, because normally the travel from Grand Bay to Bliss is one of roughly 46 minutes, almost exactly. You remember that much from your peerage, and yet here you are 53 and a half minutes in, and you still haven't seen Bliss. You've passed by the mall, you've passed by that yacht dealer that's there by those towers. It's only 7 feet tall, well, 7 stories tall, but it's the towers here, because there's not many tall buildings right on the coastline in this area of the coast. Everything's 3, 4, 2 stories tall, but the towers right there next to the yacht sales, you don't want to say lot because they don't keep any boats there, but it's, and you still haven't seen Bliss. The construction and the updating and the repairing and the changing of things has you moving across 90, and you wanted to stay on 10, and yet here you are. You see the sign, or a sign, that you can pull off and check the atlas in the trunk. So easing into the lot, you pull into one of the parking slips, and you see the well tanned tourists who are up way past their bedtimes, far too inebriated and far too easy of victims for you. You don't want to be impaired, though there is the urge to take a quick sip or two. The shadows are dark enough, there's just enough cover and no one would notice, but then there's the fact that you must make this delivery. Do you take the time to attempt to hunt?
I need that last bit one more time. I think you broke up a little bit for me.
Do you take the time to attempt to hunt?
No, this isn't a familiar area for her, so she would be cautious. Especially seeing as how the last time she had something unfamiliar to eat, it ended up with her in Lake Michigan.
Well, the ocean is definitely different than the lake, after all. You have more space, you have more time. There's an opportunity of, well, that's got to be a sign from whatever powers exist beyond this world. Lucky. That means something. That means fortuitous. That means that you should have the best of opportunities and chances, and things should be looking up for you, right? Seems as if we are experiencing technical difficulties with Gigi. Let's get them.
No, I think Gigi was the one that crashed into us.
Welcome back. All sorted, or we're still having connectivity issues?
That was the last of it. It's raining here, and ever since like this one big thunderstorm, it's messed up everything. So we're good. I think we're okay right now, though. Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. So lucky. The sign says lucky. There's something else underneath it, but you can't make it out because someone clearly didn't care enough to replace all of the bulbs or any of the bulbs on whatever it says underneath the lucky portion. So as you pull into the lot, and there's no way you don't smell the bottom of the barrel rot gut whiskey, beer, and whatever else that they're drinking these days, whatever the kids find popular, wafting, even from a distance of 25, 30 feet, where the closest living person that's moving across that little sidewalk in front of the building is, the stench hitting you with so much water over there. The ocean is literally there, less than 100 feet away from where you're parked, and these people smell like the absolute rankest. There's no way that alcohol goes bad, right? But you can swear that whatever they've been drinking is bad. It's past its expiration date. So you step out of your provided late model American sedan. It's not luxurious. It's comfortable. It's brokered in, and it doesn't break down when you touch it, which is the only thing that's really important in this particular case. You're on basically a fetch quest that you have to accomplish so that the debt of your resurrection is fully paid. Your unlife is your own. You had been granted full leave, yet here you are doing a job that's better suited for a fresh out the fang childer, to making your way to the trunk of your vehicle to get the atlas that you were told was there. The sound of metal meeting metal, the screams of some person or another and several others, draws your attention towards the expressway you've just exited. Flipping as if it was a gymnast coming to a stop is what color van, Gregory?
A pale blue, like a dusted blue.
In other words, the sort of van that should, self-immolate and explode after all of these years, because there's only so long a vehicle like that should be on the road. It handles like a boat on dry land. It doesn't have
20 years too old.
Yeah, it has the maneuverability of the most corpulent hippopotamus in a wading pool you have ever seen.
The top speed is definitely on par with current cars, however. The acceleration leaves a lot to be desired.
So as Chaval offers a bit of wisdom, as you realize that people suck. People absolutely, positively suck. People are horribly rushed and don't provide themselves enough time to get where they need to go, and are willing to take chances with their lives. You find yourself in the mouth of the driveway into the Lucky Inn. Gigi, as a lawyer, there are several things that you're supposed to do at a crash. One of them is not flee the scene, because even as a witness, you're now liable. Even as a witness, until your statement is taken, because you witnessed a crash or the after effects of a crash, there are legal responsibilities that could draw undue attention. What is it that you all do? Chaval, Gregory, Gigi?
I get out of the van
unharmed.
I get out of the van unharmed, but as soon as I'm done opening the door, I'm going into stealth mode. I am activating Silence of Death and Unseen Passage. And I will roll for the rouse.
Does it still work when there's a conscious observer?
No, but that comes from experience. But go on.
So, I mean, unless Gregory's looking straight at me, it should work.
Gregory's not the only potential witness, but that's not something that Chaval has grasp of at the moment. The world just exploded. There's nothing but
Fair enough.
residual of pain. It's a lot. being in the crash literally changes your perspective on everything in the moment. Even being dead, the collision, the kinetic damage is still there. While it doesn't stop you, while it doesn't break you, while it doesn't send you into pieces, it is still reverberating through you. And that's what Chaval is, because the world is floating. You're with a predator. You're with someone who actually not only put their mouth on you, but sunk fangs and took from you vital portions of yourself. And then this.
All right, I'm hungry.
Gregory.
I am tearing the door off. Because I'm guessing it's caved in.
Yes.
I am angry. Before leaving, I give the other car the what the fuck hands. Because there's no way I've timed that poorly. You fucking sped up. You saw me and sped up. The fuck? And I start moving away from the wreck. I already did look pretty roughed up a bit before the wreck.
Yes.
So it could be plausible that I was injured from the wreck. However, you don't often see someone that roughed up from a wreck walking away from the wreck.
And Gigi, you witnessed a crash that will definitely cost at least one life. You're not sure how many people are in the pimped out G-Wagon that was traveling at speed, but the fact that the door on the van opens and the other is kicked out of, well, far too far from the actual van itself, as a relatively large, well-muscled individual steps out, motioning towards the G-Wagon, which looks very much unlike a G-Wagon in this present moment. Its front end, the driver's portion, is dented far enough in that the engine is sitting against the driver's crushed legs. The airbags fully, completely deployed, so they obfuscate and block the faces of those who might be inside. You're not sure whether it's 2 or 3 people besides the driver, and Chaval is exiting the vehicle relatively unharmed. The fact that they are able to walk in and of itself would be a miracle by most people who are looking on. And in this day and age, the phones come out. Oh my God, someone call the police! And they start yelling, even though other people are like, oh shit, in drunken, slurred speech, trying to catalog this to put up on their social media of all stripe and variety. As Gigi does.
Shit, I didn't need this. And she's trying to, noticing that they both get out unharmed, makes her raise her eyebrow for a minute. Oh, fuck, we gotta get out of here. I can't be caught here. And she's looking at Chaval first, trying to catch their attention. Like, I can see you, you see me, and motioning to come this way and pointing to the car behind us.
And as this is the first time for everyone being in the same area at the exact same time, Chaval, as you go invisible and you feel yourself no longer present, you feel the drives of the beast powering you, pushing through the remnants of pain and the understanding of how much graphic, tragic damage you would have had you been living. Gigi, would you be so kind as to describe who is attracting Chaval's attention?
Gigi is about... Hold on, let me pull her sheet up so I will be correct in how tall she is. She's a butter pecan colored female. Kind of on the petite side, very curvy. 5'7", and her hair is a reddish brown, currently pulled up into a high updo, dressed in a red blouse under black business suit top and bottoms. Very dark lipstick. She looks like she's been through a little bit of something, but still very pretty. Kind of oddly young looking in a different way, but very large, wide eyes. But then there's that bit of darkness about her. And it's literal, both literal and figurative. Kind of around her, the shadows are a little heavier than maybe they should be. But yeah, she is trying to get the driver and the passenger's attention. Like, come here.
Chaval, Gregory.
Okay, I imagine it's stupidly obvious that there are cell phones out everywhere and that my little trying to go invisible stunt did not work.
Yeah. And just to draw an underscore, when someone is in a position of danger, the good, right thing to do is to attempt to help. This is a global understanding. Even in the battle zone, even in the middle of a war, if there is an accident, a unexpected collision, the soldiers and those involved, the combatants, will often stop fighting each other to help. Save here. Save in this moment. Save in this space of time. Instead of upstanding good individuals rushing forward to pull people from the crash, instead of someone attempting to actually call for help first thing, you see people turning their backs to catch their faces and the crashed vehicles behind them. You see people with their phones pointing in your direction to flash on. Not to find out if anyone's hurt, but to capture this moment for our posterity of where no one cares. It is reaffirming as to how deceitfully dangerous humankind can be in their selfishness, in their seeking to connect to other selfish, self-centered individuals. Instead of rushing forward to help, instead of rushing forward to even call for help, they're trying to capture this moment for their own prestige. Like, look what I saw, look what happened near me, look at me.
How many are we talking? Or is it too hard for me to discern due to time crunch?
Time crunch.
Okay. And speaking of the same sort of consideration, how well is Gigi attracting my attention, if at all?
Considerably. In the grand sea of faces who are trying to capture or get close enough to get the whole scene in view of their cameras, there is a calm center of darkness beckoning, urging you forward. Just as she described herself, she's the only entity within easy viewable range that is not pulling out a cell phone, that is not trying to raise up the screen towards you to capture the crash. There is you, there's Gregory, the sea of camera and the flash from those cameras on those phones, the victims in the other car, and the driver of the other vehicle.
I would be going in the direction I see Chaval going if I have the wit.
So Chaval is also a doctor, and she used to be an emergency room doctor. So there's a bit of a huge WTF going on right now. And in fact, due to a bit of cognitive dissonance just from the sheer moment, at first the words that come out of her mouth are in Hebrew, which of course does nothing on the crowd. But she's realizes quickly, and she points at an individual and she says, "You get help for them." She's like deliberately trying to get them to like, dude, there are people hurt. Try to do something about it. And she like deliberately singles out somebody so that they can't be like, oh, it's not my responsibility, tons of people here. Like, she's seen that before. She's like, no, not having it. Not having it right now. Get help.
Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your charisma and leadership as high as you possibly can?
Sadly, a really, really crappy roll for me, but okay. Probably accentuated by the Hebrew. Alright, live play dice. I only have one dice in this, does it matter?
No, a chance is a chance.
Okay. Okay, notes. Charisma plus, you said leadership, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then, hunger 3, not like it matters, so I don't get a reroll. Zero successes. Not a bestial.
Unfortunately, we'll come back to that because sadly, with zero successes, yeah, people suck. People are 100% the absolute worst. Humanity is a thriving, multiplying cesspool in this particular case. And these are the kind words echoing up and out of the center of your being. One of the few times in Chaval's existence where the beast and her former self meld into one gestalt being. Because there should be the attempt and effort to help those who are clearly in dire straits in the other vehicle. There should be the attempt. There should be hundreds of hands from the people that you can see, the sea of faces hiding behind screens and behind the flash of their cameras on those phones that are their personal surveillance device that they are clearly addicted to. There should be an outpouring of the milk of human kindness, and instead you get blank face. Who the fuck is she talking to? Is that bitch talking to me? What the fuck? And it is infuriating. It is the definition of burn it all. And you've never heard something so alluring from your beast. You have never heard something so in the moment logically resonant, because they don't deserve to propagate any longer. They don't deserve to be callous, selfish waste any longer. And it's an effort to keep the beast from taking this driving of what happens next. You have scalpels. You can be through at least 2, 3, 4, 6 of them before they even realize what happens. All it would take is a nice little slick, a nice little wave of your hand as you pass them, as you move towards them and through them. A flash here, a flash there. You already know where all of the arteries are. You don't even have to aim for the carotid. You could hit the one in the arm, you can hit the brachial. You could be through them and safely away from the site of this crash before they even realize what happened. They'd be dead without ever realizing that they ceased to actively be living. They'd blink and it'd be over. And you'd be doing the population nothing but good. And Gregory, in this moment, as you are trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with this guy, yeah, he clearly sped up. Wait, that's not a guy, but it doesn't really matter because that's a fucking idiotic thing to do. You're on an expressway. You should be aware of the other drivers on the road. You should be responsible for yourself and others, and yet this person was not. Clearly, they were impaired. Clearly, they weren't thinking. They looked away. They did whatever they did, and here you are in the middle of a mess. And it feels far too familiar. You fought in front of audiences of 2, 5, 300 people screaming your name, and that's what this feels like. You are on center stage. There are enough cameras present to capture not only your good angles but your best angles. Arms thrown wide, the pose of a victor. You're asking, what the fuck was that guy's problem? Why would you do that? You realize that Chaval, while pointing at and directing and trying to do what feels like the right thing, that at this no-tell motel, a stone's throw from the expressway, with the entirety of the ocean out there in the Gulf roiling and waving at you, adding its own applause to all of the cameras and gazes and eyes on you that just past the ring of flashes and the screen turning towards you, capturing the scene as it's in the offing, is a dark corner of solace. The dichotomy between the frenetic rush to film and catalog everything and the quiet beckoning out there just past these people who are closing in, some of them getting angry at being called out. The relatively fit, muscular individual that Chaval pointed towards was someone who should be able to at least help open the door and get people out, and the anger that's swelling up across his face at being called out in front of his drunken friends, it's all conflating into this one singular moment of chaos. What is it that you do?
I know I shouldn't be in the spotlight anymore. It feels good, but I need to flee. So I start going towards Chaval, and if I do have the situational awareness, I am seeing that this guy is potentially going to be a threat.
2 actions, yes. You have it timed out in your head. You know the general response time to a drunken idiot who has his camera that is now no longer in front of him like a ward against evil spirits, but it's dropping to his side, and he's, the fuck? What are you calling me out for? What the hell's your problem? What the fuck are you speaking? Speaking American. We're not some Mexican country. What's wrong with you, man? And you can feel the rage building to a flashpoint. You can C. He's going to do some lumbering, overhanded, wide swipe that would imbalance himself and probably hit everyone except for his intended target. You've been in this situation before. You fought Oscarson 2 weeks before you were embraced, and he was a similarly large individual. He used a actual honest-to-goodness antique claymore as his weapon. Most people who fight historic European martial arts use modern forged weapons. Most people use modern forged armor. He was so proud of his Teutonic heritage that he was using antiques. Of course, he'd have them, reforged and resmithed based on his activity, but he was using actual earnest-to-goodness antiques and proudly proclaiming his heritage with each fight. This wide, huge, sweeping arcs that he'd do, these damaging, punishing blows that he'd rain down. You had him down to a science. You timed him out. With that gentleman's size, how soon it's going to take to get that engine of destruction moving.
If he swings at me, I'm going to sidestep that. That's how I would have avoided those blows.
There's a part of you that grows excited. There's a part of you that's looking forward to what you're going to take from him as trophy. Is it that stupid puka shell necklace? Is it that smartwatch that's on the wrong wrist? No, it's that hat. It is definitely the fucking hat. That's gonna look so cool next to the clipping of your first fight that you won. It was unheard of that an amateur such as yourself could stand so easily against a regional champion. Yet you did. You pulled it off. You got the newspaper article as proof even now, all of these years later. And that stupid pale blue hat with the image of Mario pissing on Sonic the Hedgehog's head would look perfect next to that newspaper clipping. You can move the gauntlet that you took from Oscarson a few inches to the left and it would sit perfectly right there.
I could probably get a stand for it at Hobby Lobby.
So just a quick question. I imagine that the guy is not going to be swinging at Greg before he swings at me. Is that fair? Like, it looks like he's gearing up to punch me.
It looks like
Chaval, I'm going to fucking take him by the arm.
It looks like he's closing to have a very passionate, heartfelt conversation. Because there's no way that someone as drunk as that could see clearly enough to actually be able to be effective in a fight. He's clearly confused by what you were saying. His angry response is one of ignorance. He simply doesn't get it. He's trying to close so he can understand you. What is this talking about? You spoke in clear, direct language, and it confused him. Clearly, that's what's going on with that alcohol-soaked, bright red-eyed individual who looks like he, in his sober state, bench presses other people. It's clearly just confusion inciting that anger, right?
Chaval's not that dumb. Okay, I actually know that chaos is good in this situation because otherwise all the attention's going to be on me. That's like not what I want. So I'm actually going to try to get him to like swing and miss and hit some other dude. Like, I'm going to deliberately try to position myself so that, like, when he does try to take a swing, he's going to end up, like, punching some random bystander. I actually want a sort of fracas to break out and to try to be out from under it, if that makes sense.
All right. So, several things are happening at once. And while they are, Gigi, seeing this scene begin to boil over, what is it that you're doing? The driveway leads you through this crowd of gathering idiots. These drunken tourists and locals who have nothing to do but to kill more and more of their brain cells by imbibing whatever substances that they have drunk, smoked, ingested in all manner of orifices. And instead of doing the human thing, instead of doing what would have been done as little as, 6-7 years ago, these idiots are escalating in levels of violence. They're hyping themselves up. Man, I want to take that shit. What did she say? She fucking communist? Damn Russians! You kill her, man! And they're at the mouth of the driveway out of this place. They are closing on the two individuals exiting the van, while the G-Wagon, which is no longer a G-Wagon, is more of a crunched up Q-Wagon. The victims, the individuals inside of it, there's a connection that every magister has to the very soul of the afterlife, to oblivion itself, the essence of the opposite of life. And you feel it. There's a silent sound that alarms at the mega multi-ton explosion of a soul crossing from this world into the next. The world is enlightened. There's no fireworks, but you can feel it. You can smell it. Taste that bright moment when a living entity stops. And these idiots are preparing to drunkenly defend their honor at being called out.
It's irritating. It's very much irritating because I figure that's the only way out, right?
Yes.
There is no... they're blocking her escape. So... I guess I gotta handle this, and she does not want to do what she's about to do, but she's about to do it anyway. It starts walking away from the safety of her vehicle and towards the group. And as she does so, she's going to pull up touch of a again, so that it starts smacking people.
Alright. Like calls to like, action calls to action, which is almost the antithesis to the balanced state of being that most understanding people exist in. A busy mind means a calm body. A calm body means a busy mind. You want to keep things in balance. But chaos, unlike all measure of keeping things in equilibrium, calls like to like, and blood calls to blood. It pulls and strokes and collects more of itself, multiplying upon itself over and over. And in situations like this, everything's happening effectively at once. Would you be so kind, Chaval, as to roll your manipulation plus brawl? Gregory, being as you're action is initially a defensive one, though not of yourself. Would you be so kind as to roll your strength plus athletics? And Gigi, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your strength plus oblivion for me, please? No brawl necessary, because all it takes is a touch, but we're going to approximate here. And that will set the difficulty of the chaos that is fomenting and multiplying around you all. For your sake, roll as high as you possibly can.
I'm going to... Oh, yeah, rouse. Yes. Rouse.
Was Gigi at hunger 1, or
Yes.
was it supposed to be higher?
Yes.
Okay, just double checking everything there is correct. And actually, just because, I'm going to re-roll failures. 5.
I'm going to
and then
use
I-
willpower to reroll mine. Shit. I got a bestial failure.
Not hungrier. Hungry on my rouse check.
There is no accounting for fate's taste. Much like the old aphorism and understanding that man plans and God laughs, fate, God's little cousin, is equally bemused with the actions of the living and the dead. So as Chaval manages to incite the idiot to full-bore action, not the shoving and pushing of a schoolyard childish violent action, but no, the dedicated intent to take that, and the expletives that are flowing from him are so voluminous as to blend together, to impart the drunken feeling of dishonor he feels at being called out by some Russian who can barely speak English. He, despite all of his idiocy, even in his drunken state, is a powerhouse. Stirred on by the excessive successes of Chaval being able to manipulate him in this moment, he literally came unarmed to a battle of wills, while Chaval was wielding hers very much like the scalpel in her pockets. The wide arcing blow hits one person on the way through, only to have Gregory intercede before the blow could come close enough to interact with Chaval, who was already dancing back in preparation of getting away from this fracas of chaos. And Gigi, acting the part of Moses, moving into the crowd from behind, causing very, very actual and earnest momentary death in those that she touches. It's a temporary taste of what is to come. All it takes is a brush, and oblivion itself tells people to move by yeeting them like the baby in the bathwater. The moment the actions of Chaval and Gigi, phenomenally successful, as the Pokemon trainers say, it's super effective, or at least it would be. Gregory is a freshly dead kindred, and in this moment, what should have been a simple armbar, what should have been a simple hip toss, what was easily caught by him, is a mauling in the moment. Gigi has been dead twice. Gigi understands what it's like to be fed on by lower life forms, fish and lichen and various other things. Chaval has seen bodies obliterated by all manner of impact. Ballistic, explosive, kinetic. She understands how much damage the human body can take and how quickly that can change from dangerous to immediately life-ending. And Gregory's snarling visage summons up the image of the Balrog rising over the mountain, Wagner playing in the background, the sky darkening, because as he steps in to catch the blow that was spurred on by the idiot's drunken aggression, and Chaval outgunning and outmanning him in the battle of wits, and Chaval already stepped easily back out of range of being hit, and Gigi coming upon it from the opposite side, the crowd parting like the Red Sea. Gregory removes the idiot's arm from its socket. And no, not the easy sort of removal that you do with a chicken wing. No, the sinews, the muscles, they stretch and tear and are hanging as if they are overstretched rubber bands, keeping the arm connected to the body, but removed from the socket, the flesh looking as if it had been exploded by shape charges. The snarl on his face gives you the clear understanding that underneath all of that calm, plastic seeming is the heart of a monster. You've seen worse things happen to people, but putting your finger on exactly when is very difficult to do, as the splatter erupts from the torn arteries in that arm, as the crowd, many of whom were egging him on, drop phones immediately in the understanding that's not what's supposed to happen in a fight. Yeah, people get their head broken open by smashing against the concrete. Yeah, people get damaged in all manner of ways in a fight, but not like that. You immediately are hit with the scent of explosive feces as people lose their lunch in various ends. Those splattered by the hot, warm, overwhelming pressure of fresh blood smacking against them and perfuming the sky around you all. And then those who were close enough to have been knocked aside by the touch of oblivion. Fear has a scent, has a stench. But it's hard to discern in the spray of arterial blood. It's hard to discern in the scrambling, scraping sounds of people fleeing from the moment. It's hard to discern as even the mortally wounded individuals in the formerly G-Wagon in the middle of this lane of the expressway begin screaming in outright terror and attempting to flee their own deaths watching this happen.
So everyone's booking it.
They've just watched a smaller man, a smaller, less visibly fit man, arm hook another man's arm out of socket through the flesh, and are sprayed, they are baptized in the arterial blood of that larger, clearly more fit man.
Well, they're all running for their lives. And I don't particularly feel like trying to save this jerk's life. So, I'm gonna walk towards the car. Because I don't know what I could do to possibly alleviate the situation anyway. I think my best option is to like, hey, somebody offered to help me get out of here. Let me take him up on that offer now.
Gigi, Gregory, Chaval, what is your present hunger?
3.
2.
Gigi's at 1.
So while your intrusive thoughts, while your other half, while that portion of you that is the essence of your animated state of undead doesn't rise to the fore, there's nothing like drunk, alcohol and drug-laden blood to stir a little, I could eat. For Gregory, that I could eat is backed by a little more heft. And for Chaval, if not for a supreme level of understanding your state in the world, you would be mouth open attempting to catch droplet after droplet of the arterial spray like they were snowflakes falling from the sky. It smells strangely alluring. It's hot and it's warm. It's the essence of life and it's flowing freely. You don't even have to worry about licking the wound and cover it up. All you have to do is throw your head back and the blood that's already soaking in through your skin from the spray and catch it and actually enjoy it.
The hat's ruined. But just so sweet. I understand the situation is fucked, so I am going in the same direction as Chaval, and I am taking off the top layer of my clothing, keeping my undershirt, my black undershirt.
Gigi.
Well, this is why Gigi's wearing black and red. Anyway, but at the same time, Gigi's looking at them.
You and me both. I'm only wearing black.
This is why I said, come on, if y'all want to get the hell out of here, we have to leave now. I'm assuming, looking at the two of them, that we are all of the similar disposition, and being caught here once the cops actually get here, we should not be here.
Agreed.
So, come on.
I'm not even bothering to say anything. I'm beelining for the door, hoping that it's open. I'm just gonna open the back door. If it's open, it's opening and I'm getting in.
What is everyone's streetwise? How many dots in streetwise do you all have?
0.
Excellent. Gigi? Chaval?
As I said, 0.
Oh, okay. I heard Greg 0.
Gigi is at 2.
Oh, yeah. So you know that the average time for Mississippi Sheriff or Highway Patrol to get to a crash is roughly 10 minutes from point of impact. The impact happened 3.5 minutes ago. You guys have 6.5 minutes to be far enough away to not be easily recognizable. Are your doors
she's
open?
Carrying them up. Remember she got out to go look in the trunk.
Yes. But I'm speaking of the back doors on your sedan. The passenger door and the rear door.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
They would be unlocked.
Excellent. So as you all speed away from the scene of a crash, violating all sorts of Good Samaritan laws, leaving behind you several bodies and several soon-to-be cooling corpses. As you head west along 90. Is there any conversation, or is everyone just stoically, calmly dealing with the realities of this particular situation?
Man,
What the fuck
got
just
back in
happened?
town. I don't know, why don't you tell me? But I'm just gonna say, I'm got back in the town, and this is how. Well,
Well, I'm going to actually introduce myself. Hi, my name is Sephardi. Thank you for helping us out. What's your name?
Seems as if we're not completely free of our technological issues and difficulties, with introductions being made, and the night doing what the night does, stealing ever onward towards the day. The three kindred rushing away from the scene of a crime and, well, escaping by the skin of their teeth.
sorry, back. She would probably ask them for help finding the place she was looking for.
Bliss.
Oh, and I tell her exactly how to get there.
Yeah, I've been there before.
It's funny balancing out this moment with where they're heading. Where they're heading is a mecca of nightlife. It is the center of the anarch empire here on the coast. It is a place where the living go to get titillated with the hint of danger and to go home safely with a great story to tell. And as the three kindred rush west along 90 towards Bliss, the dichotomy and difference between the two are too difficult to not see as laughable. The joke of living and being dead on the coast, sitting apparent before them, literally leaving a murder, heading to a place where life is celebrated, the danger of the night teased and titillated. And as they pull into the lot, Bliss's neon signs glittering in the night sky, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode, and I'll see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for playing. Sorry, I kept getting disconnected.
No worries.
This is
No